Yo, Prime members, so check this out. We are here to talk about our favorite thing in the world, and that is Amazon Prime.
That's right. We all have different interests, but there's one thing that brings us together: Prime.
As members ourselves, we found ways to maximize our Prime benefits to get the most out of our passions.
From fast and free shipping, streaming of movies and music, and even exclusive deals and discounts, Prime has it all.
And what's great is that you can use all of these services to elevate your hobbies and interests.
Whether you're a bookworm, a fitness fanatic, or a gaming guru, Prime has something for everyone. I promise you that.
So go ahead, explore and indulge in all that Prime has to offer. We promise you won't be disappointed.
Time to get more out of whatever you're into. Prime. And that's that on that.
All right, my name is Malcolm Lemmons. I'm the founder of the Hype Report and a contributing writer at Boardroom. And you're now listening to the Success Playbook.
What's up, everybody? You are now listening to the Success Playbook Podcast, where we talk about pop culture, life and career success, and of course, we're going to talk about who got dunked on the night before. I'm your host, Chanell S. Reynolds, and I've been in the sports industry for several years. My goal is to take what I've learned from years of dominating the sports industry as a Black woman to help my listeners defy the odds and level up in life and career. Now, let's dig into this week's episode. What's up, everybody? It's your girl, Chanell S. Reynolds, and you are listening to the Success Playbook Podcast. Listen, I am so excited for today's guest, and it's a man who doesn't need no introduction, but I'm just going to introduce him for the sake of it. His name is Malcolm Lemmons. He is a professional athlete, former professional athlete, an entrepreneur, and he just does all the things. What's up, Malcolm?
What's going on, Chanel? I appreciate the opportunity. Great to be here.
Excited to have you. Listen, so we're going to start off today with a little game of this or that. And for our new listeners who may be out there, if you're not familiar with this or that, it's a little game we play that allows us to get to know our interviewees a little bit better. I am going to present two different options to Malcolm, and Malcolm is going to have to choose with the quickness, and he's going to have to explain his answer. Malcolm, you ready for the challenge?
Let's get it.
All right, listen, I love the confidence because people be scared on this podcast. I'm like, y'all, this is a friendly show. You don't have to be scared. But okay, let's jump right on into it. So, Malcolm, podcasts or books?
Podcast.
Okay, what are you listening to right now?
I'm listening to the startup podcast, My First Million, Earn Your Leisure. Those are probably my tops. So a lot around like business and entrepreneurship.
Love it. Love it. Okay. Hot cereal or cold cereal?
Cold cereal for sure.
Okay. What's your flavor?
Oh, that's tough. As I've gotten older, it's become Honey Nut Cheerios.
Okay. All right. Okay. Kind of pivoting into like the senior, maturity.
Man, you know what I'm saying? But it's
it's good for your cholesterol. That's all that matters. Okay. And what's your go-to meal to make?
Ooh, probably steak, rice and asparagus, or mashed potatoes.
Oh, you cook?
A little bit. I dabble.
Okay.
I'm not chef by any means, but I get the job done.
Okay, who taught you how to cook?
I taught myself, actually.
Self-taught cook.
Self-taught, for sure.
Malcolm, is there anything you cannot do?
There's a lot I cannot do. Trust me. I know my strengths. I know my weaknesses.
Okay. I love it. Okay. Well, thank you for playing the game with us. That was safe and friendly, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Dope. All right. Well, let's dig right on into our interview questions. Again, I'm really excited. Have been connected with you on LinkedIn for some years. Got to watch your work. Been rooting for you from a distance. So I'm loving what you're doing in the sport industry. But before we dig into that, tell us a little bit about who you are. Who is Malcolm? Where are you from? What do you like to do? All the things. Okay, let's keep it real. When I first graduated from my HBCU, I was in for a rude awakening. I thought I'd step right into my big break. However, that wasn't the case. I went on countless interviews and submitted countless applications and was met with consistent no's. Am I talking to you? Aren't you tired of submitting application after application and hearing nothing? Aren't you tired of getting the interview and hearing nothing back? Do you want to transition into sports but truly don't know how to? It's time to take charge and set yourself apart. I want to give you what I didn't have. Landing your dream job in the sports industry takes strategy. For the longest time, I didn't have it. It wasn't until
until I learned the game, no pun intended, that my first boss took a chance on me and hired me to join his team. In my journey to get my break into the sports industry, I didn't have a me. I didn't have anyone who was dedicated to my success. And to be honest, a solid mentor would have been amazing during my search process. Let me put you on to game. As your virtual mentor and sports bestie, I'm committed to your success. The All-Star Accelerator is a 6-week sports career course designed to help you strategically set yourself apart, get unstuck, and accelerate your start in your sports career. Graduates have landed positions at NFL teams, NBA teams, and so much more. With this program, you'll receive lifetime access to all pre-recorded courses. You'll receive community because y'all know how much I believe in networking. And you'll get a live class with your girl, me. Yes, on Zoom, you'll get to ask me whatever it is that you want to ask me. So I am looking forward to have you in class. Click the link and join the All-Star Accelerator program today.
For sure. So I tell people when they ask me this question, I was a kid who had a dream of becoming a professional athlete, and growing up in DC, especially basketball, it's the Mecca. A lot of talent comes out of the DC area as far as basketball. And, I had the opportunity to compete at a high level in high school, play against a lot of guys who went on to play professionally. And so that was my dream, and that's what I chased for the majority of my life. Was fortunate enough to go play at Niagara University for 3 years. And then I went to Cal State San Marcos out in San Diego and finished up out there. Then was blessed enough to have a couple years playing overseas in Japan. So most of my life has been centered around sports and specifically basketball. And then transitioning out of basketball, didn't really have a game plan for what I wanted to do next, but I knew I wanted to work in and around the sports business in some capacity. My way of doing that was creating content. And so initially it kind of started as me publishing a book that was centered around my story as an athlete and some of the key lessons I took away from playing sports. And that kind of funneled into other things that I did around sports and being in the business. And so more or less, I'm just a kid who kind of grew up with this dream and kind of used the platform of basketball to help me excel in a professional career afterwards.
So what part of DC are you from?
Originally uptown DC. So I grew up off of Georgia Avenue.
Okay. That's Northwest.
Northwest.
Right? Northwest. Okay. All right. I'm newer to the area. When I first moved out here, I was in Southeast. So I was a Southeast shorty. They told me to drop the TH and put the F in there because I was saying Southeast for the longest. And it was like, girl, it's Southeast, not South. But long story.
Right now. So.
Okay. But okay, that's cool. I didn't even realize you were from the area. So tell me a little bit about that. How do you love DC culture?
I love it.
Yeah.
DC is a very unique city. I think a lot of people, when they think about DC, they think about the monuments and the history. And of course, that's a big part of it. But it's a very diverse area. The educational system is very strong. Obviously, you have a bunch of different convergence of different industries. Obviously, the government is huge. But I think DC just brings a lot of different perspectives all together. And it's just it gives you that big city feel, but it's really not that big of a city. So DC has a special place in my heart for sure. Even though I'm not there currently, it's always going to be home. And eventually I see myself, settling down there.
Yeah. Dope. Okay. And how was Japan, like the transition from DC to living in Japan when you were playing overseas?
Culture shock. I had went to school in New York and then went to school in San Diego and then going halfway across the world. So I just kept going west.
Okay.
But Japan was amazing. I think culturally, Japanese people are some of the nicest people ever. They're shy, but they're very friendly. And then my second year, I lived in Tokyo, which was like living in New York. It's just a lot cleaner. But ton of stuff to do, great food options. So I would say off the court, it was a lot better than on the court for various reasons. But I would definitely go back to visit Japan. It's one of my favorite places.
Nice. And who are your sports teams? Like, who do you root for?
So I've never had a basketball team. I would always follow players. Football wise, I'm an Atlanta Falcons fan.
Okay. How did that happen?
A lot of people ask me that. Growing up, my football was my third sport, but it was the sport I loved the most. And so I really wanted to play in the NFL when I was in middle school, and I was a big Michael Vick fan, huge Michael Vick fan. And so didn't have a team. used to always watch the Falcons, and I was like, you know what? I'm a big fan. Let me just go ahead and stick with the Falcons, and that's how it happened. So I've been a fan ever since middle school.
Okay. So you never cheered for like the Wizards or the Commanders or wow. Okay. Okay. I'm not mad at it.
I know it sounds bad, right?
It's all good. You're a man who created his own path. I can respect it.
Exactly.
Awesome. Well, thank you for sharing a little bit about your background. Now, this segment of the show is called Put Some Respect on My Name. So in this segment, I want you to share with the listeners, for those who may not be familiar with Malcolm Lemmons, tell us a little bit about some of your career highlights, you know, whether that have been on the court or some amazing things that you're doing at the Hype Report and just all the things. Enlighten us. Tell us what you're up to.
Yeah, absolutely. I would say off the court,
Yo, Prime members, so check this out. We are here to talk about our favorite thing in the world, and that is Amazon Prime.
That's right. We all have different interests, but there's one thing that brings us together: Prime.
As members ourselves, we found ways to maximize our Prime benefits to get the most out of our passions.
From fast and free shipping, streaming of movies and music, and even exclusive deals and discounts, Prime has it all.
And what's great is that you can use all of these services to elevate your hobbies and interests.
Whether you're a bookworm, a fitness fanatic, or a gaming guru, Prime has something for everyone. I promise you that.
So go ahead, explore and indulge in all that Prime has to offer. We promise you won't be disappointed.
Time to get more out of whatever you're into. Prime. And that's that on that.
I'm really happy with the way that I transitioned into life after sports, because I saw a lot of other athletes kind of struggle from a mental perspective. Now, I think the biggest thing for athletes is like when you're done playing whatever sport you play, you don't have that camaraderie, that support system. And so a lot of athletes, they get lost or they don't really know what steps to take to figure out their life thereafter. I was blessed in the fact that my mom always preached education to my brother and I growing up. And so I think in the back of my mind, I knew I wasn't going to be an athlete forever, but finding that path, I think takes time and patience. And so I'm really proud of myself for kind of sticking through it and having a vision. And so, as I said before, like publishing my first book, that was really what jump-started that transition for me in a lot of ways, because I was able to have speaking opportunities, a lot of different media and things of that nature. And then that kind of propelled me into other things like having a podcast, writing for different publications, and even led me to what I'm doing now with the Hype Report, which is essentially a newsletter at the intersection of sports and technology. So kind of combining two things I'm very passionate about, and helping people in the space kind of learn, how technology is impacting the sports industry and really, keeping, helping them stay up to date with everything that's going on at that intersection. And then also working with Boardroom, which is Kevin Durant's media company, as a contributor as well. I've been with them for about 6 months. And I think just in terms of them challenging me to become, a better creator, and really kind of giving me the flexibility to, put my ideas out there and to pitch different features and things of that nature has been wonderful as well. So I think looking at in hindsight, my career as an athlete and how taking a lot of those lessons and even the soft skills that you learn from sports and applying them to everything that I'm doing now has really kind of come full circle and really just been a blessing as a whole.
I love that. I have so many follow-up questions. Well, first, tell us about the book.
So my first book was called, I published two.
Subtle flex. My first book.
My first book was called Lessons from the Game. And essentially I started writing it when I was overseas. Mainly it kind of started as a journaling exercise because I had so much time on my hands and I didn't really know what to do with all that time. And I'm sitting in my loft in Japan, and this is in the middle of the season. So I think we had like a month of break. And I'm kind of thinking about everything I went through as an athlete to get me to this point and how, so much of sports is applicable to life. And it was really like a therapeutic exercise of like, I had this experience and I learned this, and I was writing, and then I started sharing that with other people, and people were really kind of, just telling me like how inspiring my story was, how much I had to go through to become a professional athlete. and saying like, have you ever thought about like putting your story out there, publishing a book? And being an author wasn't anything that I aspired to be, but it was really more so thinking about how my story can inspire other athletes who might go through similar situations and not know how to navigate them. So I published that book when I came back home. And as I said before, it was really like the stepping stones to, one, closing that chapter of being an athlete, but also stepping into a new chapter and opening up other doors. And then my second book, which I published right at the beginning of the pandemic, called Impact Beyond the Game, was more so focused on teaching athletes how to, build, leverage, and monetize their personal brands, especially in this NIL era where student athletes have the opportunity to build brands that can help them create generational wealth, but also legacies going forward into whatever they want to do next. I really kind of took all these experiences that I went through, but also what I saw other athletes do, and break it down in a way that athletes can understand how it can apply to whatever situation or whatever sport they play in. So those two books have really kind of helped me build my platform, but also, I guess, provide value to the overall sports ecosystem and the people who either are working with athletes. If you are an athlete, if you're a coach or anything of that nature, you can get some value from the things that I've learned and the stuff that I've been through in my life.
I love that. And you pretty much answered it, but like, why was it important for you to create that book? Being an athlete, coming from, all of your work being on the court, and you make this big pivot into the real world, kind of like, why was it important for you to establish your mark there through a book?
I don't think I thought about it that way. I think it was more so, for me, it was like I hadn't really had people helping me along the way. Like I had a little bit of help here and there, but it was nobody really there were certain situations that came up during my athletic career where my mom, she didn't come from the basketball world, so she didn't really know how to navigate it, going through recruiting and college visits and dealing with coaches and butting heads and playing time, like all these different factors that kind of play a part in your career. I struggled to figure them out. And so it was like, I've been through all this. I know somebody else is going to experience it. So how can I relay this information to the next generation or just one other athlete who might be struggling with this situation? And so it was really more so me wanting to use my platform and everything that I learned along this journey and just paying it forward, just giving it back, because a lot of athletes, they're dealing with their own things. They might not know how to, explain that or break it down. And so I think a book is a great way because you can really take your time to formulate everything that you've been through and break it down in a story form that people can really digest it on their own. And so I thought that was my best way of communicating my story and the things that I experienced it and just paying it forward to the next generation of athletes.
I love that. And for all the athletes who are out there listening, why is it important for them to establish that branding, that personal brand, and, having that strong name, image, and likeness?
Because your reputation is everything. I think at the end of the day, like, as I said before, like, you're not going to be an athlete forever. Being an athlete is oftentimes the pinnacle of when people recognize you the most, especially if you're playing at like a top Division I school. Like everybody on campus knows you. The boosters know you. The athletic department, like the whole university is basically behind you if you're playing at a top school. So why not leverage that platform, that influence that you have, not only for monetary gain, but for relationship building and whatever else preparing for whatever else you want to do outside of your sport. And so that's why I think like a lot of times when people think about NIL, it's a lot about, branding and sponsorship dollars and how can athletes make money. But it's also about like what skills can you develop business wise and how are you building your relationships and your network that's going to propel you to life after sports, because that's just as important. So I think that's why it's so important to understand like NIL is a pivotal moment in time. And in order to really capitalize, you have to understand strategies, tactics, and certain concepts that can help you really leverage this as much as possible while you're playing.
I love that. And for some of our listeners who may not totally understand what NIL is, can you give us like a basic 101 lesson in like a couple of sentences? What is NIL and why is it important to the athlete?
So NIL is name, image, and likeness. And basically in July of 2020, I believe the NCAA opened the gates to where student athletes can essentially making money using their platform. So whether that's a brand deal or starting a t-shirt business or having a podcast and getting sponsorship dollars based off of that, athletes are essentially allowed to use their platforms and to generate revenue.
Dope. I love it. Okay. You also mentioned something about, I'm sorry, I'm blanking on it. You merged sports and technology it's in one of the publications that you do.
Yeah. The Hype Report is centered around.
Report. Yes. Tell us about that. Like, these are two totally different worlds. How did you merge the two and why was it important to do that?
So initially when I transitioned out of basketball, I started working in tech. That was my day job, to pay the bills. I had a friend who was teaching a boot camp class, let me take it for free. I ended up working on a couple of different government contracts, doing some cybersecurity work. And I just fell in love with technology. I mean, obviously it plays a big role in our everyday lives. And I thought, during, as I was working in tech, I started to learn a lot. And that kind of fueled my passion for that space. And then obviously being an athlete. So it was really during the pandemic where I started to dive deeper into like the Web3, which is like the next iteration of the internet, connected devices and blockchain technology, which is kind of high level, but it's basically the decentralized version of the internet where people who create content can have ownership of it, et cetera, et cetera. I became really fascinated with this concept and saw it had a lot of application and use case in the sports world. When you think about fan engagement, athletes using their brands, things of that nature, even, fans being able to have ownership within the teams, like things like these high level concepts started to arise during that time. And I didn't see, you have like your publications like Front Office Sports and Sports Business Journal, some of the bigger sports publications, but they, to me, weren't really going into depth about how all these emerging technologies were impacting the space. And so that was really like the impetus of me starting the Hype Report. It was seeing both sides and wanting to stay up to date with everything that was happening, but also like this is going to change a lot of the way the sports industry is ran, and people need to understand these concepts and how even AI is impacting sports. And that was really the birth of it, and kind of the overall mission was educating sports business professionals on the future of the industry. So I've been building that for about a year now, and it's been going well. It's been growing, and I think just continuing to provide value to the sports ecosystem and helping people understand all these different things are kind of playing a part within one another.
Yeah, it was hard for me to conceptualize at first, but you just broke it down. And I'm like, yes, 100%. Especially during the pandemic when we couldn't really have fans in the stadiums or in the arenas. Like, we really tapped into technology to reach out to the fans. So no, I think that's awesome. And I love that you're shedding light on the importance of sports and technology. That's so dope.
Yeah. I mean, as I said before, like it has a lot of use case. And you mentioned like you couldn't have fans in the stadium during that time. So how were teams making money? They were engaging with consumers. It was through like digital collectibles, which had really started to emerge during the pandemic, and virtual experiences. So all these different things kind of happen as a consequence of teams and athletes not really being able to engage with one another. But now we're in a whole different landscape to where technology has sped up fan interactions and digital engagement so fast, is that people have to understand these things and how it's impacting the industry.
Yes, 100%. I love that. Okay. And then you also mentioned that you're a contributor for The Boardroom, which is Kevin Durant's media company. So how did that come about? How did that opportunity come across your desk?
So long story short, one of their contributing writers had been following my newsletter for a while, and I ended up meeting her in person at Art Basel, which is a huge art festival, if you want to call it, or event down in Miami. And we just happened to run into each other, and she was like, "Oh,
was she following your content on LinkedIn?"
Yeah, LinkedIn too, I think.
The power of LinkedIn.
LinkedIn to Twitter.
Okay.
And we just happened to have a mutual friend who introduced us. She was like, "Oh, you're Malcolm. Like, you write the Hype Report." I'm like, "Oh, you read it? Like, that's dope. I appreciate it."
Cool.
And we really hit it off and had a lot of similar interests. And she was covering like sports technology for Boardroom. She was like, "Yo, like, I want you to work with us." I'll introduce you to like the VP of content. So I ended up meeting him. From there, he kind of connected me with the editorial lead. I met with her at All-Star, NBA All-Star, hit it off. And so it was kind of just like connecting the dots and, really just aligning with their team and kind of what the platform was about, what they believed in. And I just, jumped on board because, all those things kind of matched up. So.
That's awesome. And I love how the story is comprised of you just being at the right place at the right time. Like you at Art Basel, you at All-Star Weekend. And what year was that?
This year.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah. It's also a testament to like, you never know who's watching.
Yes.
Sometimes people will stop doing something that they're passionate about after like a couple months because they're not getting the numbers they want or the followers they want. And it's like, all you need is one person who can change your life. So you got to just keep pushing forward if you really care about your craft and what you're doing and you're passionate about it. Like it takes one person.
Yes. That, and it's also a testament as to how like your reputation precedes you in rooms, because you went down there just think he was going to have a good time. And the lady says, "Oh, you're Malcolm." I think that's amazing.
100%. Yep.
Yeah. I mean, look, the power of networking is so dope, and just being consistent and just living in your purpose. I love that.
Yeah, absolutely.
So how do you define success?
I define success as being able to do what I want, when I want, how I want, and being happy doing it.
Are you at that place right now, or are you in pursuit?
Still in pursuit.
Okay.
But I'm getting close.
You getting close. You're right there. I see it.
I'm getting very close.
Okay. I love it. So here on the Success Playbook podcast, of course, I like to understand what everybody's philosophy of success is. But I also like to dig deeper into the L's. Why? Because there's an art of taking L's. And we know that taking L's pushes us a little bit closer to our destiny, our purpose, and what we're called to do. So I would love to hear about a specific example of one of the L's you may have taken, Malcolm, and how it contributed to who you are holistically, how it contributed to your success overall.
It's a great question. I've taken a lot of L's. Trust me, I take L's every day.
Yeah. I love it. But most successful people are like that, because we're the first one. We put ourselves out there. Like we raise our hands to do new things. And sometimes we might trip up a little bit. It's okay.
It's a part of the process for sure.
Exactly.
L's. I would say that, from a business perspective, if you want to call them L's, I've started a number of different things that I stopped doing. So I actually, during the pandemic, had started a platform called Athletes Unheard, and it was focused around storytelling for athletes who were struggling with mental health. And I launched this whole platform, invested my money in it, started doing interviews, I had written pieces, brought on interns, everything. And then I shut it down.
Why?
A couple different reasons, which I kind of don't want to go into, but it was mainly because I didn't see a long-term vision with it. Like it was a nice little passion project. But I didn't really see the long-term goal, so I decided to take a step back from doing it. I think the website probably still up. So athletesunheard.com. And so I wouldn't call it an L, but if I failed, let's see some other L's. Basketball wise, I would say my biggest L in a pivotal probably point in my basketball career was in high school. I got cut from the team my sophomore year. I almost quit playing basketball altogether because that summer going into my sophomore year, I put in so much work. Like I was in the gym every single day, multiple times a day, like had no social life that whole summer because I wanted to make the varsity team. Some of my closest friends in my class were playing varsity. And I was like, I think I'm good enough. I made the last cut. I actually ended up taking the team picture. So I thought I made the team. Right after the team picture, coach calls me into the office and was basically like, look, we got a stacked team this year. And mind you, that team my sophomore year, we were number 1 in the country in some rankings. So the team was really good. And I probably wouldn't have played anyway, but he basically just said, like, you know, I want you to play. I want you to develop. I don't want you just sitting on the bench all year. I'm going to have to send you back down to JV. And I was crushed.
Oh,
Crushed. I remember going home that day and just crying. And my mom sat me down. She was like, in life, you have 2 choices when things like this happen. You can, you know, be done with it, push it aside, move on. Or if this is something you really want, go back to the drawing board, keep putting in the work, and it'll happen for you. And that's exactly what I ended up doing. So that was probably the most pivotal moment in my basketball career. In an L, if you want to call it an L.
Yes. I love it, because without that moment, you probably wouldn't be who you are today.
100%. Mm-hmm.
Love that. Did that moment force you to like get in the gym more and like train up and all that good stuff?
I think it definitely kind of helped me develop a sense of resiliency. And also this mindset of like, I don't want to ever have to go through that pain again or be denied. And so I think just like during that whole season, like I dominated JV, like averaging like probably 30 points a game. Wow. So like people knew like, oh, he's capable of playing varsity, but it just made me more hungry, you know?
That's what those L's do. I love it. And your mom's response was very dope. I just want to say, because I don't know what I would be able to say to my son if, you know, he's home crying because he got cut. I don't know what I would say. I love that advice she gave you.
Yeah, my mom is a beast. Bro, she's a beast.
Shout out to her. Shout out to you, Mama Lemmons.
She would like to hear that.
Awesome. Well, Malcolm, how can we continue to support you?
Well, you named it. LinkedIn is.
Yo, what's going on? Hope all is well. I'm Duke.
I'm Omar. I'm Jalan, and this is Nice and Neat, the podcast.
We're 3 quintessential friends dedicated to the 360-degree development of men.
Our goal is to not only share our experiences, but offer as much value as we possibly can through the lessons we've learned along the way.
When I say we talk about everything, we talk about everything. Character, discipline, career development. Oh, and let me not forget, we get real personal.
Now make sure you're subscribed so you never miss any of our episodes. Write a review. Let us know what you think. Enjoy.
Probably the platform I'm most active on. I'm not on Instagram right now, but I'm also on Twitter. But LinkedIn is like my bread and butter. So I'm always receptive to messages there. And then other than that, I mean, I appreciate it. Anybody could join and subscribe to the Hype Report. So that's at the hypereport.xyz.
Dope. I think I'm subscribed. I know I'm subscribed. Yes, I'm a supporter. Awesome. Well, thank you. It has been a pleasure having you on the show, Malcolm.
Thank you. I appreciate the opportunity. It's been great.
Awesome.
Yo, Prime members, so check this out. We are here to talk about our favorite thing in the world, and that is Amazon Prime.
That's right. We all have different interests, but there's one thing that brings us together: Prime.
As members ourselves, we found ways to maximize our Prime benefits to get the most out of our passions.
From fast and free shipping, streaming of movies and music, and even exclusive deals and discounts, Prime has it all.
And what's great is that you can use all of these services to elevate your hobbies and interests.
Whether you're a bookworm, a fitness fanatic, or a gaming guru, Prime has something for everyone. I promise you that.
So go ahead, explore and indulge in all that Prime has to offer. We promise you won't be disappointed.
Time to get more out of whatever you're into. Prime. And that's that on that.